terribly dumb and capable of doing horrible things. That night, we all drank beer and pulled wrists and talked till dawn, and in the morning, while we sat around dumbly smoking butts from ashtrays in the gray light of a gloomy day, Dean got up nervously, paced around, thinking, and decided the thing to do was to have Mary Lou make breakfast and sweep the floor. In other words, we've got to get on the ball, darling, what I'm saying, otherwise it'll be fluctuating and lack of true knowledge or crystallization of our plans. Then I went away. During the following week, he confided in Chad King that he absolutely had to learn how to write from him. Chad said I was a writer and he should come to me for advice. Meanwhile, Dean had gotten a job in a parking lot, had a fight with Mary Lou in their Hoboken apartment, God knows why they went there, and she was so mad and so down-deep vindictive that she reported to the police some false, trumped-up, hysterical, crazy charge, and Dean had to lamb from Hoboken. So he had no place to live. He came right out to Paterson, New Jersey, where I was living with my aunt. And one night while I was studying, there was a knock on the door, and there was Dean, bowing, shuffling obsequiously in the dark of the hall and saying, "Hello, you remember me? Dean Moriarty? I've come to ask you to show me how to write." "And where's Mary Lou?" I asked. And Dean said she'd apparently hoarded a few dollars together and gone back to Denver. The whore. So we went out to have a few beers because we couldn't talk like we wanted to talk in front of my aunt, who sat in the living room reading her paper. She took one look at Dean and decided that he was a madman. In the bar, I told Dean, "Hell, man, I know very well you didn't come to me only to want to become a writer, and after all, what do I really know about it except you've got to stick to it with the energy of a Benny addict?" And he said, "Yes, of course, I know exactly what you mean, and in fact, all those problems have occurred to me, but the thing that I want is the realization of those factors that should one depend on Schopenhauer's dichotomy for any inwardly realized," and so on in that way. Things I understood not a bit, and he himself didn't. In those days, he really didn't know what he was talking about. That is to say, he was a young jail kid, all hung up on the wonderful possibilities of becoming a real intellectual. And he liked to talk in the tone and using the words, but in a jumbled way that he had heard from real intellectuals. Although, mind you, he wasn't so naive as that in all other things, and it took him just a few months with Karl Marx to become completely in there with all the terms and jargon. Nonetheless, we understood each other on other levels of madness, and I agreed that he could stay at my house till he found a job, and furthermore, we agreed to go out west sometime. That was the winter of 1947. One night when Dean ate supper at my house, he already had the parking lot job in New York, he leaned over my shoulder as I typed rapidly away and said, "Come on, man, those girls won't wait, make it fast." I said, "Hold on just a minute, I'll be right with you as soon as I finish this chapter." And it was one of the best chapters in the book. Then I dressed, and off we flew to New York to meet some girls. As we rode in the bus, in the weird phosphorescent void of the Lincoln Tunnel, we leaned on each other with fingers waving and yelled and talked excitedly, and I was beginning to get the bug like Dean. He was simply a youth tremendously excited with life, and though he was a con man, he was only conning because he wanted so much to live and to get involved with people who would otherwise pay no attention to him. He was conning me, and I knew it, for room and board and how to write, etc., and he knew I knew. This has been the basis of our relationship. But I didn't care. We got along fine. No pestering, no catering. We tiptoed around each other like heartbreaking new friends. I began to learn from him as much as he probably learned from me. As far as my work was concerned, he said, "Go ahead, everything you do is great." He watched over my shoulder as I wrote stories, yelling, "Yes, that's right, wow, man, and phew," and wiped his face with his handkerchief. "Man, wow, there's so many things to do, so many things to write, how to even begin to get it all down, and without modified restraints and all hung up on like literary inhibitions and grammatical fears. That's right, man, now you're talking." And a kind of holy lightning I saw flashing from his excitement and his visions, which he described so torrentially that people in buses looked around to see the overexcited nut. In the West, he'd spent a third of his time in the pool hall, a third in jail, and a third in the public library. They'd seen him rushing eagerly down the winter streets, bareheaded, carrying books to the